What's the most NSFW thing you've done at work? My manager got caught banging the cook in the walk-in, and instead of firing the manager, they just moved the cook to a different store because there was no evidence, just hearsay. But a week or so later, she got caught in the act with another coworker. They both got fired. That's Denny's for ya. Story 2. I work in EMS. For a long time, we were excused from the HR meetings about harassment. But because of an incident before I got hired, we all had to go to a harassment training with other regular office government employees. It was pretty cringe because they clearly had no idea what we dealt with. At one point, the presenter was describing how we should report whenever someone makes a reference to anything intimate so it can be addressed. To which a medic asked if that included the patients who pleasured themselves in front of us in the back of an ambulance. The presenter's only response was, "Oh my god, does that really happen?" We never had to go to an HR meeting again after that, probably because they were not equipped for the reality of our problems. Story 3. Microwaved a grape in the work microwave. For the scientists, cut a grape in half, leaving a small amount connected, creating an 8 pattern. Put it in a microwave, turn it on, and it creates a plasma, superheated gas. Anyway, to stop it splitting, I put some kitchen roll underneath. Unfortunately, the superheated gas ignited the paper and we had a small fire. Did I get in trouble? Nope. The whole team was watching, even my boss. Fun times. Story 4. Dumb 20-year-old me got caught rubbing one out by my butchy lesbian boss in our single stall shop bathroom when she walked in on me. I forgot to lock it. She later told me that she was bi and wasn't offended. Knew I was young and had urges. She was 34. But to use her personal bathroom from now on, because it was closer to my desk/service counter and it would keep my production up. OP put the words bi in quotations here, and I don't even know what that's supposed to imply. This is also just an interesting kind of situation. I don't know how to feel about it. Is it weird? Kind of. Is it bad? That's hard to say. Story 5. I once made a massive pot of cheese broccoli soup while tripping balls on LSD. Didn't get fired for that though. Did, however, eventually get fired for getting very good at throwing steak knives at boxes of potatoes in the prep kitchen. I was very good at it, and usually very stoned, so I would lose track while washing dishes. So one day they came in for silverware to roll, and every knife in the restaurant was stuck in the potatoes. I went out on a good note. I was training a guy that night too. Story 6. My first job at 15 was an ice cream/hot dog stand on the beach. I made a lot of outrageous desserts for myself and friends and would do whippets with all the whipped cream. It was a friend and me that worked there together and we would just get high all day. It was the best first job. No supervision. And despite our being high and slacking, we were a busy store and made enough money for the boss that he didn't care. He just wanted someone to open the place and not burn it down. Also, I sold hallucinogens at another job. Quit a job by locking the bathroom, clogging the toilet, and climbing out a window. I helped smuggle some art over international borders. I house sat for a boss and his daughter came over thinking he was out of town and nobody was there, and we banged in his bed. Borrowed a company van for a weekend. Drove 6 of my friends from Florida to New Orleans. Blacked out partying and woke up back home minus the van. When I was a bar back, I would get my stuff set up and then I'd help bands load in equipment before the bar was busy. Did a lot of drugs with bands on the clock. Worked at Publix for 1 week and ate an entire birthday cake from the bakery by myself on a dare and went home sick. When I worked at a warehouse, I found the only key to a storage closet nobody used and converted it into a tiny private bedroom so I could take naps on the clock. I farted on customers. Once went on a business trip with colleagues. The hotel messed up my supervisor's reservation and they were overbooked for convention, so I offered her my room and we ended up sleeping together, at least for 6 months until the boss found out and then I was fired. Had a boss who knew I did shady stuff and he offered me a job driving a van of something 12 hours north to drop off, leaving the van and taking a flight home. He told me it was risky and to not look in the back. I did the job. Brought pot brownies to work for select cool people, but they were too strong and I got busted and fired. Couldn't fit an artwork in the elevator, so I took the elevator 1 floor down and opened the door and stood on top of the elevator in the shaft and rode the painting up to the 11th floor that way. Also, I am known to get obliterated at work Christmas parties. OP sounds like they've had a lot of jobs. And you know, I just can't for the life of me piece together why. Why does OP have to keep moving around jobs so much? Could it be them? No. It's the employers who are wrong. Story 7. Crawled underneath a 500-ton injecting molding machine while it was running. Jumped off a 6-foot electrical cabinet and barely stuck the landing. Performed percussive maintenance on a 480-volt relay with exposed contacts by repeatedly hitting it with a bare hand. Walked underneath a 6,400-pound bucket mold hanging from the overhead crane, but that one wasn't intentional. I wasn't paying attention and was looking down. Pay attention, folks. I always love the mix of frisky NSFW things and actually not safe things at work. It just gives some good variety. Story 8. I've been in engineering for over 20 years. CAD, 2D or 3D, has been thoroughly explored for office pranks. In the drawing board days, there was the snap off a pencil tip in your coworker's electrical eraser prank, or the dip their pencil tips in clear nail polish gag. As time went on and things went predominantly electronic, you get to your desk in the morning, open up the design you were working on, and suddenly there's a gigantic wiener on your screen. Or you export your bill of materials and find that someone has renamed some part descriptions with colorful language based on the shape. It was an unwritten rule that as long as the pranks were quick to pull and easy to fix, nobody would rat anyone out. As years went on, pranks got more and more elaborate. At one point, 2 interns tried to prank me and it went horribly awry. They went to an online 3D CAD library and downloaded a rather inappropriate CAD model. They scaled it down and merged the geometry inside a specific fastener that was used in about 500 places in my design. So at first glance, you don't see anything out of the ordinary, until you export the design to 2D CAD and the hidden lines reveal what's hidden within. Except the prank didn't quite work right. Nobody said anything, nobody noticed anything, and I knew nothing for years. Fast forward 5 years. I got a call from a customer I hadn't spoken with in 5 years. He said, "Hey, so let's keep this on the down low. I was editing a .dxf from your doc package and there was this block I couldn't find or delete. I had to zoom way in to find it, and it was everywhere. When I zoomed in, do you know what I found?" No, what did you find? Was it some kind of export artifact? That happens sometimes, really annoying. No, I can't quite describe it. Let me text you a picture of it and you tell me what you think it looks like. Bzz, bzz. That's a dong.gif. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's odd. And, that was in a block? Yeah, that's what I said. It's actually everywhere there's an M6 by 25 screw. Me finally realizing someone pranked me and it got out. Yeah, that must be some sort of import or export artifact. Sometimes surfaces don't import properly and you get weird shapes, spikes, you name it when you export to 2D. Maybe, but you have to admit this is a funny one. Sure is. Let me see if I can run another export and get rid of those artifacts for you. Would that help? Yeah, that would be great. Turns out when the interns opened the files back 5 years prior, they hadn't switched from imperial to metric. So the internal geometry was scaled down to 1/25-ish of the size I left it at, rendering it impossible to see. They also pulled a big no-no and used it to overwrite the file in our library. It was honor system back then. So now, every project using an M6 by 25 screw has wieners on it, or rather in it. That also happened to be the most common screw size we used. We generated thousands and thousands of prints per year between the whole design group. Every file that went out had this artifact in it. We're talking hundreds of thousands of wieners. Story 9. Used to work at a large entertainment venue that was badly run, and everyone knew it was losing money and would soon be shut down. Staff started to get a bit wild, knowing we only had a few more months of employment there at best. Most of us were drunk within an hour or two of clocking in. Joints became the norm on cigarette breaks, and often our manager would come for a quick toke too. I was dating another employee, so we would sometimes sneak off to change a barrel in the cellar and bang down there. The clientele seemed to get wind of this attitude too. One time we noticed a group of men all gathered around one table cheering. On closer inspection, they were watching a mature lady fist herself on the table. Probably the greatest few months of paid work I will ever experience. What do you mean entertainment venue here, OP? Is it the kind of place you could expect a mature lady to, indulge herself in? Or is it something more tame? Because, if we're talking a Chuck E. Cheese, this is super NSFW. But if it's not, if it's something more, adult, then it's kind of NSFW. Story 10. I had a bad beef and bean burrito just before a major meeting. I get a funny tummy before big meetings anyway, but this felt hella different. 5 minutes before the meeting is supposed to start, I Hail Mary it to the nearest men's room. I kicked down the cubicle, lowered my pants. I don't let my butt cheeks touch the seat in public toilets, so I'm just hovering my fat butt above the toilet seat when I poop, and went to town all inside. I noticed after a few seconds the stench was incredible, and my butt felt really wet and sticky. I peered over my shoulder and looked down to see that in my haste, I had not lifted the toilet lid. So what I had effectively just done was taken the biggest, wettest, stinkiest crap of my life on top of a toilet. Just a huge pile of crap sitting stagnant on top of the lid. I didn't have time to let the horror set in, so I wiped up, washed my hands, and ran the hell out of there feeling much better tummy-wise. An hour later, the meeting had finished. I ran to the toilets to clean it all up best I could because I'm an idiot, not a jerk. When I got there was an out-of-order sign on the door. Janitor was outside putting on some thick frickin' gloves. I asked what happened, to which he replied, "A group of people decided it'd be funny to crap all over the toilet." I was just like, dang, some people, huh? Never spoke about this again. Story 11. First job out of college in 1998 was at SAIC. Internet was new. I was new to an office setting, and I found it amazing I could just browse adult content at work on my computer. That lasted a week or two before someone came and told me that management could see our internet searches. Immediately thought, uh-oh, but returned to work the following day, forgot all about this, and proceeded to look up more content. I was politely asked to leave and to not return again the following day. OP, I don't care if it's your first job. You should implicitly know that this is inappropriate workplace behavior. What? Well, come on. Story 12. If you consider paid tutoring in high school being at work, well then here's a story for you. I was a senior at the time and a TA for the class my girlfriend was in. She needed help and her parents paid me to tutor her. Since I was the TA, I had access to the tests in advance. So we would go through the tests and answers while tutoring her in her room with her parents downstairs. We would bang, and once the tutoring was done, her parents would pay me for my time. This occurred regularly during the semester, and of course, she got an A in the class. OP, I hate to break it to you, but I think the parents knew about the banging. You definitely cannot be as sneaky with that as you probably thought you were. Anyway, sounds like no harm, no foul. Story 13. Was the manager at a small to mid-sized grocery store once upon a time. Started working there when I was 14 or so and worked there for 11 years working up to manager. The pay was awful and the hours were insane, but it gave me the freedom to pursue a musical career at the same time to a certain degree of success. As the manager, I had access to a bedroom upstairs which had a desk, a kitchenette, and a bed. The grocery store was in a plaza with two popular college bars and across the street from a college and a dorm. I made friends with the servers in both bars and would be invited for drinks after my shift with them. Also made friends with a lot of the girls in the college. Having access to the bedroom upstairs came in very handy for small after parties, which would inevitably end up having booze and drugs involved. The bed there was very useful for frisky times. Some of the wildest times in my life were at this grocery store partying in the upstairs bedroom. As long as we cleaned up and got out before the owner got in at 9, we would be fine. The night shift did not care and were my friends anyway, so they would sneak the odd drink or two from us and enjoyed the company during an otherwise boring shift. Did I get away with all this? Well, yes and no. I always made sure to clean up and air out the room well ahead of the owner showing up, and I was a stickler to make sure nothing was ever stolen from the store or the bedroom/back areas. I left that job in my mid-20s, and recently, at a funeral for an ex-coworker from that store, I ran into the owner again. We all went to a bar afterwards. I asked him if that bedroom upstairs was still there, and he said that in the renovations it got gutted and turned into a walk-in fridge or freezer or something. I said that it was a shame. It was a great room. He said, "Oh, I bet you missed that room." He ended up sharing that he knew what was going on the whole time, but he didn't care because nothing was ever broken or stolen, and all the work that needed to get done was getting done. If the police ever came for some reason, he would have just played dumb and I would have taken the blame. Hey, that's a W owner right there. Essentially just being like, well, no harm's being done, they're having a good time, nothing's being stolen. Sure, I feel like there are so many owners who would not let that happen, and admittedly, I do understand that as well, because the risk is there and the liability is as well. But hey, this owner? Huge homie. Story 14. Used to be a manager at a Walgreens in Las Vegas. Had a girl I worked with who was also a manager that worked a similar shift as me. She was kind of a nympho, and once I found this out, she loved to brag about her exploits. I jokingly suggested that she could suck my dong anytime she wanted. Yes, I know that's horrible harassment, but this chick was not the type to be fazed by something like that, and I knew it, so it wasn't a big deal. Long story short, she loved the idea much to my surprise, and over the next few months would give me a blowy in the stockroom once a week, swallowed and everything. Was an absolute champ, gave the most mind-blowing head that even to this day I have seen no comparison from. Sadly, we eventually got caught. I think she started bragging to coworkers about it. The company couldn't do anything to us since they didn't have any proof. Just a complaint from one of the cashiers. The very next day, Walgreens installed a very fancy 360-degree fisheye camera that could see every inch of that room. She gave me maybe 2 more blowies in other odd parts of the store, but by then everyone knew about it, so the excitement had worn off. It was a lot of fun while it lasted. Had never, or ever since, done anything like that. But sometimes, you just gotta live a little. Story 15. As a former aquatics director, got to see all kinds of gross bathing/swimming habits. Peeing in pools, snot rockets, excessive scratching and flaking of skin, etc. But the NSFWist was the dude in our public hot tub/whirlpool, pleasuring himself, while making eye contact with 2 16-year-old girls in bikinis in the tub with him, then finishing and wiping it off on the gutters/scooping floating bits of it into the gutter. The girls immediately ran to us to report that, and his defense wasn't to deny it, but he said, "Well, they shouldn't have been in here since they're not 18 yet. I told them they should get out, but they wouldn't listen." So the cops got called, and he, a 45-year-old regular patron, decides to put himself in the middle of the hot tub away from the walls and say, "Y'all can't get me. If you want me out, you'll have to come in." So they did, and were upset about it. They cuffed him and dragged him out in his swim trunks in 19-degree Fahrenheit weather to the car without letting him grab his things. Fun times. Story 16. My boss turned a staff bathroom near his office into his personal bathroom. He put a sign on the door and everything. It was a total piece of crap move because we had a pregnant woman on the first floor who now had to go upstairs to use a bathroom. No elevator either. When he had a meeting that first week, I peed all over his bathroom. The sink, the floor, you name it. When he asked the janitor to clean it up, she said she refused to clean up his mess. You know what, OP? I like this. I like you. I think you did a good thing here. There's a small part of my brain that tells me, no, this can never be the right thing, but there's a larger part of my brain that says, yeah. Story 17. Colleague sent me pictures of her changing into her workout clothes 15 minutes after she was off the clock. I texted back for her to unlock her office door and was there within 12 seconds and my dong down her throat 40 seconds after that. And also a blowy and banging in my office when a friend with benefits visited while I was working late on a Sunday evening. There were a few people working at the time, but luckily their offices were on different hallways. Story 18. Went to work and had to take a Xanax. I struggle with pretty severe PTSD and panic attacks. I then forgot I took a Xanax. Had some shots like I didn't take a Xanax and got hammered. In the 4 short hours of late night service, I 1. Got blackout drunk, 2. Flashed the bar multiple times, 3. Made out with the photography lady, 4. Made out with her cousin, 5. Made out with both of them at the same time, 6. Kissed several of my coworkers, 7. Sent a video of my coworker kissing to the dude I was dating, 8. Smoked a joint inside the bar after last call, 9. Tried to drive home and was physically picked up and put in a coworker's car. And not technically at work, but still funny, 10. Went home and ordered $75 of elote and nachos. 11. Passed out face down in my bed, boots on and fully clothed before I could answer the door for nachos. And I had only been working there for a month. Needless to say, I no longer drink and I now make a notation on my calendar when it's a Xanax day. My only consolation is that at least I'm a friendly drunk. And no, I did not get in any sort of trouble or reprimanded in any fashion for this at all. The general manager and I were literally drinking together. What a disaster. The poor dude that she was dating at the time. That must have been a lot for him to process. To be fair, it must have been a lot for her to process too. I don't know anything about the side effects of Xanax, but I assume it really reduces your alcohol tolerance from the sounds of it. I feel like I can piece that together. It's either that or it just doesn't play nice with it, which I know a lot of drugs do. So this is definitely a wild ride. And definitely NSFW. Surprisingly, these were all super solid stories. So I hope you enjoyed listening to the video as much as I did reading the stories. I also hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. And I'll see you in the next one.